They say the most dangerous temptations never shout. They whisper, quietly, in the moments when your guard is down, in those soft, lonely spaces where you're already aching, already empty, already wondering if anyone even sees you anymore. I never thought I'd be that woman. Not me. I used to look at women who did things like that, women who cheated, who crossed boundaries, and think how selfish, how reckless. But now I understand. Because when the loneliness gets loud enough, even a whisper feels like a lifeline. It started so small, so innocent. A glance that lasted half a second too long. A laugh that felt warmer than it should have. A moment where his eyes lingered, and mine didn't look away. And that's the thing no one tells you. It's not some dramatic fall from grace. It's tiny, almost invisible moments, stacking up until one day, you don't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. I didn't go looking for this. I wasn't out to ruin anything. But what do? When someone finally makes you feel seen, after years of being invisible, what do you do when the one person who notices you happens to be your husband's best friend? Yeah, let that sink in. And here's the part one, still can't say out loud without my voice catching. I didn't say yes because I wanted to hurt anyone. I didn't even say yes because I wanted him. I said yes because I didn't know how to say no. Because a part of me was so tired of waiting to feel wanted again. To feel alive. I know what you might be thinking. How could she? And I don't blame you. But let me ask you something. Have you ever made a decision you can't take back? Not because you didn't know it was wrong, but because, in that moment, it finally felt like you mattered? That's where this story begins. With one whisper, one glance, and one woman standing at the edge of a line she never meant to cross. If you've ever felt forgotten, if you've ever sat beside someone and felt completely alone, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand what I'm about to share. Subscribe now to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, because sometimes the quietest stories are the ones that break us most. I've been married to Jordan for 11 years. He's not a bad man. He's not cruel. He pays the bills. He remembers birthdays. He kisses our kids goodnight, even when they're already asleep. He does enough. But somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing me. He'd walk through the door and ask what was for dinner before he even looked up. We used to talk about everything. Now, most days, we just talk about groceries, the mortgage, the schedule for next week. His hugs started to feel like habits. His kisses? Like punctuation. And his touch. It faded like wallpaper in a room no one visits anymore. I told myself it was normal. That after a decade together, this is just what marriage becomes. Predictable. Quiet. Comfortable. But it didn't feel like comfort. It felt like loneliness, wearing a wedding band. Then there was Caleb, Jordan's best friend since college. The cool uncle to our kids. Always around for birthdays, BBQs, house repairs. He had this way of leaning in when you talked, like nothing else in the world mattered more than your words. Even when I was just talking about laundry or what color to repaint the guest room, he made it feel like poetry. He was warm, present. Not in the loud, flashy kind of way, but in the kind of way that feels like sunlight through the blinds. Soft, quiet, but it stays on your skin. He noticed the little things, a new haircut Jordan didn't mention. The tired look in my eyes I tried to hide with concealer. He'd say, "Rough week." And he'd mean it. We never had a moment that crossed a line. Not then. He'd come by with tools Jordan forgot to borrow. Fix the squeaky gate. Tighten the loose doorknob. He'd stay for coffee, sometimes dinner. He was always just there. And in a house that felt increasingly hollow, Caleb became the only space that felt full. I never planned it. I didn't sit there waiting for his visits. But I noticed the way my heart lifted a little when I heard his truck pull into the driveway. The way I straightened my blouse before answering the door. The way I laughed a little louder when he was around. I told myself it was harmless. That he was just a friend. But deep down, I knew better. Because every time he smiled at me, Every time he asked how I was doing, not as a formality, but like he truly wanted to know, I felt something wake up in me, something I thought had died years ago. It's easy to tell yourself you're just being friendly, that it's nothing. But when your body starts remembering what butterflies feel like, it's not nothing. It's a warning. And I ignored it. It was a Thursday evening. Jordan came home late, again. Dropped his bag, mumbled something about a last-minute business trip. Said he'd be gone all weekend. Just shrugged and kissed my forehead like he always did. No apology. No warmth. Just routine. He left before sunrise the next day. No goodbye. Just the sound of the front door closing. That night, the house felt too quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in your bones. The kids were asleep early. I stood in the kitchen, sipping lukewarm tea, just existing. Then came the knock. 2 soft taps. It was Caleb, holding a toolbox and that familiar half-smile. Said he figured Jordan forgot to finish the deck again. Said he had a few hours to spare and thought he'd help out. I let him in. No hesitation. He got to work outside, and I made coffee, the kind he liked. Hazelnut, 2 sugars. I knew, without asking. We sat on the porch afterward, the deck behind him half done, the sky above us fading into a soft gray. It was peaceful, but not innocent. He looked at me. Really looked. Then said, "New hair." I nodded. It had been 3 weeks. Jordan hadn't noticed. Caleb smiled. "It suits you. You look softer." I felt my breath catch. Not from the compliment itself, but from the way he said it. Like he meant it. We talked a little more about nothing, really. But it felt like everything. And just before he stood to leave, he looked at me, eyes steady, voice low. "If I ever ask something of you," he said, "just promise me you'll hear me out. You can say no, but just hear me out." I didn't know what he meant. Not fully, but my chest tightened, and my mouth went dry. I nodded. He didn't ask anything that night. But the way he looked at me, it lingered. Long after he left. Long after I climbed into bed alone. I laid there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I'd just agreed to. Wondering why my heart was racing. And the part that scared me the most wasn't the question he didn't ask. It was that part of me deep down didn't want him to stop looking at me that way. Didn't want him to leave. Didn't want the night to end. I should have stopped it there. Drawn the line. Closed the door. But part of me didn't want to. I kept replaying that night in my head. Not the words. Just the look in his eyes. The way he paused before leaving, like he wanted to say more. Like he was waiting for me to say something. And the way he looked at me, not like a friend. Not like someone's wife. But like a woman. A woman worth wanting. It had been so long since I'd felt that. The next morning, I walked past the mirror and caught a glimpse of myself, my robe hanging loose, my hair messy, eyes still tired. But I looked closer, and I didn't feel invisible. And that scared me. I started paying more attention to little things. Brushing my hair before taking out the trash. Putting on a spritz of perfume, even if I wasn't leaving the house. Checking my phone more often than I should have. I told myself it was nothing. That Caleb wasn't thinking about me. That it was just a weird moment. But deep down, I hoped he was. I hated myself for that. Every time I walked past our wedding photo hanging in the hallway, I'd feel this sharp twist in my stomach. There we were, me in white, Jordan in black, smiling like the world was brand new. And yet, that smile felt like a stranger now. Jordan hadn't kissed me like that in years. Hadn't looked at me like that since before the second baby. He loved me. I knew he did. But love without attention feels like abandonment in disguise. And Caleb, he gave me attention without even trying. Or maybe he was trying. I didn't know anymore. I'd catch myself thinking about him while folding laundry, while stirring soup, while lying in bed beside Jordan, wide awake. The guilt would rise like a tide, then pull back again the moment I remembered how Caleb made me feel like I mattered. Like I was still worth noticing. I started noticing the way I dressed on weekends, how I'd choose softer fabrics, subtle lipstick, even if I told myself it was just for me. But it wasn't. It was for the possibility that he might show up, that he might knock on the door and stay for coffee and smile the way he did last time. Was it about him? Or was it about the ache inside me that I couldn't name and didn't want to confront? Every time I heard his name in conversation, every time Jordan mentioned him casually, I felt my pulse shift. Like my body remembered something my mind was trying to forget. I tried to draw the line in my head, but the truth is, I was already past it. I hadn't touched him, but I was letting him touch something deeper. Was it loneliness? Or was it betrayal in slow motion? And if I couldn't tell the difference, did that mean the line had already been crossed? The second weekend Jordan was away, Caleb came over again. This time, he brought wine. Red. The kind I always said I liked in passing. He remembered. Said he figured we could finish the deck, or just sit on it and pretend it was done. I laughed. And God, I laughed too long. We didn't do any work that day. Not really. We sat on the porch. Same spot. Same quiet. But it wasn't the same. There was a weight in the air. Not heavy, just present. Like a door had been left cracked open. Like we both knew there was something in the room neither of us was naming. He made a joke about Jordan, about how he never finishes what he starts. I smiled, but it felt different this time. Like we weren't talking about projects anymore. And then he looked at me, eyes steady, wine glass tilted just slightly in his hand, and asked, "Do you ever wonder what life might have looked like if you'd met me first?" I felt my body go still. Everything in me locked up, except my heart. That was pounding. I didn't answer. Didn't even breathe for a second. I looked down. Swallowed hard. He didn't press. He didn't need to. The question wasn't really a question. It was a confession. And by staying silent, I gave mine back. He didn't stay long after that. Said he had somewhere to be. But his eyes lingered again at the door. The same way they did last time. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, after the dishes were done, after I lay in bed next to a man who didn't ask how my day went, my phone buzzed. A message. From Caleb. I didn't mean to overstep. But I meant every word. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. I could have ignored it. Could have deleted it. Could have said, "This needs to stop." But I didn't. I typed slowly. Felt my fingers shake. I don't know what I'm doing either, and I hit send. I waited for the regret to come. For the shame. But it didn't, not right away. Instead, I felt something else. Like relief. Like the silence between us had finally said what we couldn't. The next day, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. But I checked my phone every hour. Waiting. He didn't text back. Not for a day. Not for two. But when he finally did, it was short. "Can I see you?" Just to talk. I should have said no. Should have shut it down. But I didn't. I told myself we hadn't done anything. That it was just a conversation. Just wine. Just words. But I knew better. Because the line we used to pretend wasn't there. We weren't just approaching it anymore. We were balancing on it. And part of me wanted to fall. The third weekend, I didn't cook for Jordan. There was no family meal, no cluttered plates for four. Just two settings. 2 wine glasses. 1 candle, flickering quietly between them. I told myself it was just dinner. Just food. Just company. But I knew better. When Caleb arrived, he didn't knock. He just opened the back gate, like he always did. Familiar. Comfortable. He walked into the kitchen like it was his second home, smiled when he saw the table, but didn't say a word. He set down the bottle of wine, rolled up his sleeves, helped with the dishes already in the sink, not because they needed cleaning, but because we both needed something to do with our hands. We talked about weather, work, random things neither of us really cared about. But the silence between each sentence, it was louder than any words we said. There was a moment, a long one, when the conversation just stopped. Not awkward, just still. He looked at me. Not like a friend. Not like someone's wife. Like someone he'd been waiting for. He didn't ask for permission. Didn't make a move too quickly. He just leaned in. And I didn't move away. I didn't remind him of Jordan. I didn't pull back. I didn't do any of the things a woman who wanted to protect her marriage would do. Instead, I closed my eyes. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't frantic or clumsy. It was slow, careful, almost reverent. Every touch felt like it had been waiting for years. Every second stretched into something sacred and stolen. And when it was over, when the quiet returned and there were no more excuses left between us, I looked at him. He was lying beside me, eyes open, breathing steady. And I whispered, barely louder than a breath. "What have we done?" He didn't hesitate, didn't soften the truth, didn't offer comfort. He just said, "Something we can't undo." And he was right, because in that moment, everything changed. Not just between me and him, but between me and myself. Because now, every time Jordan said, "I love you," I'd wonder if he could feel the distance I had created. If he could hear it in my silence. If he could see it on my skin. And every time Caleb smiled at me, I'd remember how it felt to say yes without a word. Monday morning came like it always did. The sun rose. The kids stirred. The coffee brewed. And Jordan walked through the door, smiling like everything was fine. He wrapped his arms around me, kissed my forehead, told me he missed me. And I wanted to scream. Not because of what he said, but because of what I had done. Because of what he didn't know. Because of how easy it was to lie just by standing still. I nodded. I smiled. I asked how the trip went. I played the part. But inside, something had cracked. He unpacked his bag while I folded laundry in the other room, wondering if he could smell Caleb on my skin. If he could see the guilt in my eyes. If something in the universe would give me away. But nothing did. Life continued. Breakfasts, homework, bedtime stories. Except now, everything felt rehearsed. And Caleb, he didn't text. Not for 2 days. Not even a check-in. When his message finally came, it was short. Cold. Final. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you for that. I never should have let it happen." I stared at the screen for a long time. I read it over and over. There was no we. No us. Just him. His mistake. I didn't know if I felt relieved or abandoned. Maybe both. I didn't reply. I told myself it was better this way. Cleaner. Safer. But the silence felt like punishment. I tried to fall back into routine, packing lunches. Smiling at PTA meetings. Laughing at Jordan's dry jokes at dinner. But nothing felt real anymore. Not my laugh. Not my smile. Not even my reflection. I started jumping at every phone notification. Even when I knew it wouldn't be him. I started flinching when Jordan touched me, not because it hurt, but because I didn't feel anything. And that scared me more than anything. I started noticing all the lies I told, the small ones, the quiet ones, like pretending I was tired just to avoid intimacy. Like saying "I love you" just to fill silence. Like smiling during conversations that made me feel like a stranger in my own home. And then, the truths I never said. The ones I buried. Like how I missed Caleb's voice. Like how I replayed that night in my head, even when I didn't want to. Like how a part of me still longed for something I couldn't name. Jordan didn't notice. Or maybe he did, and just didn't want to ask the questions that might lead to answers he couldn't handle. Either way, I was drowning in a life I had built. A life that used to fit, until I stepped outside of it. And now, no matter how hard I tried to shrink myself back in, the seams didn't hold. I wish I could say it ended after that night. That we drew a line and honored it. That we never spoke again. That we walked away before anything else could break. But truth is, some nights I still wonder. I wonder what would have happened if I'd answered his message differently. If I'd said, "You're right. We never should have." if I'd blocked his number, if I'd confessed everything to Jordan in one breathless, desperate attempt at redemption. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence stretch until it turned into a shadow that followed me everywhere I went. I started questioning everything: my marriage, my choices, myself. Was it just a moment of weakness? Or was it the truth, finally clawing its way out of the life I had built around pretending? Do I still love Jordan? Or do I just love the idea of what we used to be? The memory of when we were younger, before the exhaustion, the distance, the forgetting. Sometimes I look at him while he's sleeping peaceful, unaware, and I feel this ache I can't describe. Not guilt, not grief, just emptiness. Like I lost something I didn't realize was precious until I broke it. And Caleb. I don't know if I miss him, or if I just miss the version of myself I was when he looked at me. Sometimes I think about telling Jordan, laying it all out. Every word, every reason, every regret. But then I ask myself, who would that really help? Would it free him? Would it punish me? Or would it just be another way of trying to feel less like a monster? Because that's what I've become in my own mind. A woman who betrayed the man who trusted her most, not with a stranger, but with someone who shared their laughter, their memories, their table. People think guilt stops you, that it slams the door shut. But here's what no one tells you: guilt doesn't always stop you. Sometimes it makes you chase what hurt you in the first place. You want to fix it, reclaim it, rewrite it. But all you end up doing is going deeper into the thing you swore you'd never touch again. And even now, even after everything, there are nights I lie awake, heart still, breath shallow, wondering, if he knocked again, quiet, patient, gentle, would I open the door? Have you ever made a choice, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't know how to say no? Because silence felt safer than honesty? Because the ache inside you was louder than the voice of reason? That's what I keep asking myself. Was I wrong for letting that moment happen? Or was I just human? Human in the messiest, loneliest way, aching to feel seen again? It's easy to judge from the outside, to look at someone else's story and say, I'd never let that happen. But life isn't black and white. It's made of quiet compromises, unspoken longings, and the fear that maybe no one really sees you anymore. Tell me in the comments, was this betrayal? Or was it just a cry for connection? Have you ever stood at the edge of a choice like this? Held your breath between right and wrong and chose what made you feel alive? If stories like this stir your soul, if they make you reflect, ache, or even whisper, I've felt that too, then like this video and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We unravel the human heart. Some people come into your life like shadows, not to stay, but to show you what light you've been living without. And when that light touches you, even briefly, it's hard to go back to the dark. But here's the thing no one warns you about. Sometimes the hardest betrayals aren't the ones we commit against others, but the ones we commit against ourselves. The moments we abandon our own values to chase a feeling we can't even name. The truth is, loneliness doesn't always scream. Sometimes it wears a familiar face. It brings wine. And it listens like it cares. If you're ever standing at that edge, aching to be noticed, to be touched, to be chosen, ask yourself, is this love or just loneliness wearing a mask? Because once you cross that line, no matter how quiet your steps, it never disappears. It follows you. In your silence, in your smiles, in the way you hold people who don't know they've already lost a part of you. And you never quite feel whole again. Not because someone took something from you, but because you gave it away and it didn't come back.